Cynthia, and I'm the host of the reality series, CPS the Horror Stories. I'm not an attorney or a social worker, but I am a mom who had her children kidnapped by CPS in 2016. After 2 years of fighting, I did get my kids back. So each of the families that I interview have a horrific story that needs to be told and heard by others to understand the traumatic events, devastation, and corruption that's done by the Department of Child Protective Services. So Courtney, I hear that you have a horrific story that was done by CPS. So would you like to introduce yourself first?
Hi, I'm Courtney Greenwood. I am a mom for my two daughters, youngest daughters. I had mine illegally kidnapped by CPS in 2015. I am still fighting currently while they're in a home still under and enduring abuse that has been proven. And no one, due to bureaucratic paperwork and BS, is why they have not done anything or put them back in my care, because statute of limitations has already ran out for me to be mom on paper. Okay, then put me something else, make me guardian.
Wow.
But instead, their easiest answer was go away till you have something more and new. We're leaving them right where they're at, because even though the judge is concerned, that was just of January of this year. That was.
How old are they?
My youngest is about to be 11 tomorrow, and my oldest is 12.
Okay.
I carried both of them with cancer of the female part.
You have cancer?
Yeah, I did when I had both children. Before I got pregnant with my first, I had had my left ovary removed.
Wow.
Yeah, at 20 years old. So I literally fought to be a mom.
I had so did you have a tumor or what was it?
I've got multiple sclerosis as well. And so that's, lesions of tissue, spinal cord in the brain. It can affect, there's multiple different types, bilateral, lateral, I'm going into that, but it affects your body and other people's bodies differently. And that's a red blood cell disorder. And then cancer is a white blood cell disorder. So I'm not quite sure, because I had endometriosis at a very, very young age. I was having surgery and all that stuff, just to keep my female parts going, to be able to have the babies.
That was the same thing as me. You and I have a lot.
You lived to be a mom. You literally fought to bring them into this world. And then your right and your duty as a mother to protect is being stripped from you. You can fight and fight and fight all day long to protect them and be blocked and blocked and blocked and stopped from protecting them from harm. And there's nothing we can do about it. Like, after we just fought, not only for our own lives, but our kids to even exist in the first place, no one's going to love them and take care of them and their needs any better than a mom that fought to be able to bring them in this world in the first place.
Wow. I had an endometriosis as well. At 19 was the first time I ended up in the hospital because of it. And I had so much fluid in my pelvis because of the blood. And then the endometriosis went outside and wrapped around my ovaries, my colon, to where it gave permanent, I had to end up having my large intestines removed.
Oh my, I'm having all that looked at right now. I've got so much that's been looked at. I mean, I'm in the best health I've been in years, since I was a teen. However, I have this long laundry list of stuff wrong with me, most of it chronic. But then I have all these other random stuff that comes in as age, and all this other stuff. So, and I had a full and total hysterectomy 6 months after my youngest was born. They were just like, you have 2 babies. The doctor was about to retire, so he didn't care about the flack that he was going to get, and that he was, be brought by the board, giving a 22-year-old a hysterectomy total. But it was to save my life. I was bleeding out. Nothing would stop it. And so I had a full and total hysterectomy at 22.
At how old?
22 years old.
I had it at 28. And
it's rough, girl. It's a rough thing, isn't it? Going through surgical menopause. Bam, brick wall. Hello.
And it's funny because
it's
when I tell people I have hot flashes and stuff, and they're like, "You're too young for all that," and I'm like,
Girl, they are horrible. You want to climb in
Yes.
a freezer? Yes. I promise it's worth it. Once it's done, it's worth it. I'm
Well, I
finally
had it. I had it
You're
done.
done?
Yeah,
No, I'm saying the
28.
hot flashes. Once the hot flashes are done, everything will be way worth it. Like the hot
How?
flashes stop. I'm 11 years in. So
Oh,
about right
wow.
around 10 years, you'll stop having those relentless hot flashes.
Wow.
They're
And
really
then
bad. I don't take
now,
hormones.
yeah, I don't either.
But
I'm
let your body work
allergic.
itself out. It's a reason you don't have the parts. Your body knows that it needs to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
And,
right way to do it, I feel.
and then I have autoimmune too. I don't have MS, but I have lupus and gastroparesis. And I don't know if you've seen my
Oh.
videos, but I have um, tubes that come out of my stomach.
No, I hadn't seen those like videos of like I've just been like obsessively watching and taking notes of all the other ones, especially ones in the state of California because I've been studying law on the side since this has happened. I originally, my senior year project, wanted to be an attorney and a pediatrician, and I explained why that was so important, and it had to do with the Child Protective Services system. Actually, ironically enough, here we are.
Where do you live?
I am currently in Tennessee. I was going between Maryland, Tennessee, and then California for court. But I live where my daughters are living. Like I live in there. I don't call what I'm doing living right now necessarily, but I reside in Tennessee. I take care of my two older parents. My father's a disabled blind veteran, and my mother, that is my mom, the one I call mom, she's way older than him. She's 73, and she has congestive heart failure.
Wow.
I help try to take care of them when I can at the same time as taking care of myself and fighting.
Now in California, is this where your case is?
Yes, ma'am. El Dorado County,
Where is that, southern or northern?
Northern California, Lake Tahoe to be specific, an office that was shut down multiple times already in the past for exactly what's been done to me.
Okay.
And now, yeah, they were shut. They just reopened 6 months prior to them opening a case on me.
Now the only thing I do want to explain, because somebody had wrote it on a video, that I look, I'm actually going to do a video about this probably today. People have been commenting about how I look like I'm nodding out when I'm doing videos, and I'm like, okay, number one, I throw up.
I'm looking at my notes and down too, yeah.
I throw up the majority of the day.
Oh, I did that for 7, 8.
But then the other
Especially.
thing that I have is I'm beyond anemic, so it causes me to be very fatigued.
I'm on Eliquis.
But I'm listening. I
Yeah,
can hear.
no, yeah, you can tell. I can tell because you follow individuals that you've had to do multiple sessions with, videos. You are reiterating their story back to them
Yeah, and I
from the previous videos. That's how much I've been watching your videos nonstop. Like I'm not, it's my life. I mean, my children are what will make my heart beat again the way,
So thank you for letting me explain, and I, apologized. So okay, let's start. Tell me when CPS first. Now you've never experienced CPS as a child or anything?
Yes, I have.
Okay, can we start there?
My father's a disabled, legally blind veteran. My biological mother and he were still married when it happened, but were separated. He was with another young lady, and she was already with someone else. And long story short, he came out of a coma. They didn't think he would. Legally blind, unable to drive. Back then, they didn't take your license away or put it in the computer system, so he still had his driver's license at the time. Jenny would be nasty. Biological mom would be nasty and hateful and tell him, you want to see your effing kids, then get in a car and get up here. Find your own way up here to see them. You tell a man that, he's got his license in his pocket still. So he rents a car and crashes it right in front of the rental company. So this is important here in a second. And so long story short, we end up doing visits with my father down in San Diego, and he's got brain damage. And so he has the cognitive reasoning and processing of a 12-year-old at times. So my brother and I were with him, and it was really hot, and I wanted to take my shoes and my shirt off, and he let me. I walked around San Diego in just a pair of shorts. I was 3.5, 4. And we were supposed to have supervision, and we didn't. The lady called out on my dad sick, and he didn't want to not have his visit with us. We hadn't seen him in a long time.
Right.
So we come back from going to the toy store, and there's a police officer's card on the door of the apartment. Jenny had called, or sorry, Bio mom had called the cops. And so my brother grabs it and returns the call, and they come and pick us up and arrest my dad. I still remember it, like it's crazy. They put him in a police car and put us in one, take us to the station. We were put in that little kid, that secret kids room thing. I was seen by a doctor. I had a fever of like 102, 130. They wanted to give me shots to lower my temperature, and I refused until they let my dad out of the handcuffs. Like, you could tell he was hurting and uncomfortable.
Wow.
CPS was involved at that point. She got full custody of us, no visitation. I was getting thousands of dollars in child support behind everybody's back. And
This is
wouldn't let him see us.
mom?
My biological mom, yeah.
Getting child
So the one, she was getting, she was getting a percentage of my father's SSI and VA benefits for us, you know, because he got hurt in the service and it took him away from us. So they were providing extra income into his bank account to go ahead and raise, you know, to take care of us. And it got shuffled to her, my stepfather, her now husband, but he had no idea it existed. None of us did. She used to put us on the phone and ask him to send the $300 check he would send. He did that all on his own. It wasn't required. He did it just to do extra. And she made it us all benefit, all he paid for child support.
I apologize if I make you repeat yourself, but tell me why he didn't have any custody of you. Did you say, was it split custody? Because you said
no, she had full. She went and got full custody while he was in his coma. He woke up out of his coma with no custody of his kids, divorced and broke. She drained his bank account. My grandfather had to go confiscate his checkbook from her.
And now he has supervised visits, you said, because there was...
He did. He got supervised visits after that. You know, he went and took her to court. His parents, they had him flown to Tennessee, to Florida. The military flew him in a coma because they said he wasn't going to wake up. And did. And she went and divorced him and had his bank account info and checkbook and stuff and was draining it because he was still getting paid even though he's in a coma. Military pays automatic. And so he woke up from his coma broke, no kids, and divorced.
How old were you at the time?
By the time that all went down and went through, I was in 92, so I was 5 or 6, going on 6. I remember it. I remember because they didn't give sticky socks, so hospitals didn't give them back then. They weren't provided for anti-slip. So I threw a tantrum to go to JCPenney's to buy my daddy a pack of the sticky socks because I heard the doctor say if he ever did wake up with his injury that he has, if he hit his head just right in any way, shape, or form in a certain spot, he'd be dead instantly. And I got stuck. And so I wanted to get him sticky socks because I knew my daddy was going to wake up and I didn't want him to fall again. And so we did. I pitched a fit and wouldn't even get in the car until she agreed to take me. And I remember them taking him down the hallway after I put the socks on his bed and stuff. And we said bye. And so he was flown to the East Coast. And he went and got himself a place on the West Coast and started fighting for, visitation and got that supervised visitation agreed upon between the two lawyers. There was no court with that. Court got involved with me and my brother after that visit in San Diego. And in all honesty, that would have happened with any other parent, like any other father that back in those days. A little girl that's only 3 or 4 or 5 years old, no shirt and no shoes when you've just gone and played in the water at the fountain and you're walking home, Like right. Back in 92, that wasn't a big deal. That was normal. That wasn't that big of a deal. Now, I understand the dangers of it. Obviously, I had a fever, the temperature changes of going into the air conditioner and all that. But, he didn't understand that. Like, and I get that, but would that supervisor person even really have understood that back then either? Like, you know, you can't really. So it was just kind of, it was unfair. She was waiting for that moment. Clearly, I mean, she took advantage of when there was no way he could say anything or defend himself or ask. He never fought for any custody because he knew he couldn't take care of us like that full time. He understood that. He just wanted his rightful visits and phone calls with his children and had that relationship with us that he ended up eventually getting, because the judge asked us and asked me if I wanted a relationship with my dad eventually when the CPS is involved. That's why I don't understand why this hasn't happened with mine. But anyways, I remember saying, yes, I want to fly to Tennessee every summer and see my dad. My brother had said no. And I was very attached to him and madly in love with him back then. I was like, I was going to marry my brother. I didn't understand, you know, you can't marry your brother back then. And I said, I won't go though without him. And I pointed up at him with the judge. And so they sent us out in the hallway, just my brother and I, and had us discuss it. And I told begging him to get, you know, him to do it. And he did it, obviously, because here we are today. I live in Tennessee and have a great relationship, the best relationship you can possibly have with a dad with the injuries that he has, the brain injury that he has. We have, and, you know, he's there for me now, being a supportive parent as me being an adult, you know, like that's what it was saved for, I guess, you know, because he's parented me several times through this. Right. You know, he's really been there. Like, he opened my eyes when I got upset about not being able to be mommy on paper anymore. It was like, but you can always go get guardianship. You are now their sister on paper. You're next of kin. Legally, I'm next of kin. Legally, I had the right to take them to court this January, like I did, for the concerns and the proof I have of the abuse my youngest daughter is enduring right now at the hands of my biological mother. And they won't help her.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that spot in a second.
So that was that. My dad would sneak and see us during the times he'd fly to court. And from East Coast, out there, stepmom, mom, the one is my mom. She's the one that.
Hold on one second. Is that your child?
No, this is a friend of mine, my best friend in Tennessee. I have two people that I'm best friends with. One stays with us, and she has a 12-year-old. Well, 11 going on 12. 11 going on 18, really. She's so grown and smart. And then my friend here that has two kids that I hang out with and spend time with. I've been around kids this entire time. I've had to.
Yeah, it's hard though at the same time. It's like a must, but at the same time it's so hard.
It only with certain children, due to their connection with my children, or relationship with my children. There for a while I was full-time 28, 26, 25 days out of the month, taking care of 4 all at the same time last year, for this last 2 years. And if I can take care of 4 of them overnight and everything, meals, getting the older ones to school, all that, diapers and the little ones, all that, ranging from 6 months to 12, then I can take care of an 11 and 12-year-old.
Right. So go ahead and repeat what you said about your dad, please.
So my dad went back and forth with my mom, the one I call mom. He was making really irrational statements, and when she first met him, about his ex-wife. And then she asked, why do you feel so, hateful? And he explained it to her. And so she felt bad and took her vacation, took him across country to file for visitation. No custody, just visitation and phone calls. That's all he was asking for. And it was a crud show. Counseling, all kinds of craziness. I had to do counseling with him at first. Have a friend, family member from Yucca Valley, at the time is where we lived, come with me to visit with him when he was in Yucca Valley and see how that visit went and how I felt, because I really didn't know my daddy per se, it had already been so many years she kept us away from him. And at 5, 6, 7, and 4, those are pertinent years to bond with someone. So I felt that connection, like that draw, but I didn't know him. So I told my brother if he goes, I want him to go, that I really wanted to go, and I begged him. And so we started flying to Tennessee every summer to spend time with my dad.
Yeah.
And get to know him. And over the years, built a really really strong relationship, really good relationship, as good as it can be for.
And you said he is where now? In Tennessee?
Yes, ma'am. My mom and him live in my grandparents' old home.
Okay.
So
All right. So
that
now,
was my first interaction with CPS.
got it.
And you'll notice the common denominator every time is the incubator, as I like to refer.
Yep. Got it.
My dad was Marine Corps. I begged him. I was like, please tell me I was a petri dish baby. Please tell me. I will feel so much better about life.
Yes.
I will save half of my time on counseling. I can move on to self-improvement and be done with mommy issues. This is back when I still had the mommy issues, you know, like I don't at this point.
Right.
But yeah, I used to beg that I was a petri dish baby. So if I say incubator, and
I
it
get
offends
it.
anybody, I apologize ahead of time, but it's like the most simple way to express all that emotion in one word. And
I understand. I actually really like. Have you heard? You haven't heard my story then, right?
I have heard a good portion of it through your different parts of the videos where you have shared.
Okay.
So I know that we had some severe common denominators within our cases, and that's why I reached out to you. And then the final straw for me that creeps me out, you got to understand this. My lawyer is the name on the contract paperwork. My current attorney working with me is Davis.
Mr. Davis?
It tripped me out. Because I just found you just pop in like through the web of algorithms on Facebook and the hashtags here, you show up on my page of videos to watch, and I'm like, and I was just drawn and sucked in and ended up all night, falling asleep to some of them, watching your videos. The day I reached out to you and said, I am so sorry for the ungodly hour, but I felt like I had to write you, you know, like it was like you accidentally came across, but I don't think it was an accident.
No.
And at that point, I had no idea, you know, what type of foundation or backing you had, you know, or what type of group this was about or anything. Just you and the people you talked to. That's all I knew at the time.
So are you aware that he was my attorney?
Yes, I talked to him.
He saved
this morning.
He got my kids back.
I unfortunately caught him at a time that we both had tragedies go on in our private lives, and then the time frame of what the damage that was already done by the time I got the money together to hire him. So it's now been kind of trying to full circle. It's like a game of chess at this point for us within the bureaucratic legal system, you know. That is literally all it is. Like the judge January stated severe concern. Like severe concern. You will too when you see in here, because I will send them. And
is he working for you now? Like, are you guys fighting?
We were gonna sign before COVID happened. Everything happens for a reason, for sure. God works in mysterious ways. They were feeling they were gonna have to step down. I had another attorney working under him that was actually his paralegal for the first year and a half, 2 years of he and I working together. So you might know who Clark was working as a paralegal. He hadn't taken the bar yet and all that. He had just finished law school. And he went and finished. And so the paralegal that prepped all my paperwork prior became my attorney under Mr. Davis. I have yet to be able to get him into a courtroom for me on my behalf yet, due to what type of hearing it has become and the tactics and manipulations that have been used within the court system of the county I'm in. They're very slick. It's one of the largest counties in the state of California, most spread out, and they're very slick and utilize that to their advantage in every way possible. That's why when I say it's like a game of chess, man, it is a game of chess. And one of us constantly saying checkmate, like check. You know, so it's horrible. It's been hard to cope with. My children's life and future and well-being
is in the hands.
And we're at a point where my daughter, my oldest, if she does stick with high school, I don't get my hands on her and I'm able to get, we are bonded. I don't care what they say. My girls, as soon as my oldest sees me, she will say, I want to live with her. Okay, now hold up. I know I'm being lied to. Mommy, you look so good. Because last time they saw me, I was 93 pounds and I was dying. Alberta County backed me in a corner. They knew I was sick. I was sepsis. I had gotten sepsis from a surgery. And I was 93 pounds. She wouldn't hug me because she was afraid she was going to break me. So if she saw me healthy right now like I am, she's like, I'm going to go with her. She totally can take care of us. Wait a second. You know, her head would be warped, but my kids both of them, if they had a safe place to stay and sit, and they got to see me, they wouldn't even have to talk to me. They just got to see how good I look, how mommy carries herself, because it's the way mommy did when they were younger and wasn't as sick as I got with CPS in my life and controlling my schedule. I had to miss doctor's appointments that could have kept me from being that sick, to keep my court-ordered schedule and to keep my 4 hours a week with my kids. And I got so bad that I was throwing up constantly because my stomach went paralyzed due to the stress with PMS. And I wouldn't show up if I couldn't stop throwing up. You know, my kids need to see me like that. So my hours started really disappearing because they wouldn't make those visits up. So I personally filed a JB 180 on my own because, like I told you, I started teaching myself to do Skype visits. Because I can hide, you know, that I can set it down for a second. Right. You know, my girls and I like to tell jokes, but yeah, I was sick. I was really sick, and that was the grounds of their vacating my rights. Was my physical, medical illness.
Courtney,
after the first two.
You and I have so much in common. I've had sepsis and been in the ICU 5 times. I was
PPE. I was in ICU, but they put me in the oxygen room, you know, low oxygen room at PPE, where everybody had to wear PPE to come in. I've had West Nile and was put in, you know, ICU and PPE.
I've been on hospice 3 times.
Oh, girl, you've gotten worse than me. I've almost killed myself and being stubborn and not going to the doctor, being like, I'm fine, I got this, I don't have time. My kids, I have a schedule, I had strict schedule, so I've manipulated my medical and my surgeries around all of this, all of it. It's been a full-time job. And then also having to work to have some means of income and my parents' caregiver to make sure that my support system that I do have is taking care of themselves and are healthy. Like, I have a large support system, just not blood related. Like, I have nobody that's blood in my life except for my father and now my aunts back in my life. After
I had everybody leave. Everybody.
Yeah, he came out and saw what was up. My dad came and stayed with me. They had me take him to my brother's white coat ceremony when he was becoming a doctor, and that I was reliable enough for that, you know, to take him all the way up to Oregon, my dad, and then bring him back down to Lake Tahoe. And he stayed and lived my life. I went to my counseling sessions and talked to the people that were working with me, and they all told him she does not, because it started out as me being accused of drugs falsely. I went and I was falsely accused,
so
and I gave them my blood right then and there. That's how they got my kids into the system. Was she went and picked them up from my friend's house that was helping me co-raise them. We were co-parenting together. He was a friend that introduced me to their father to begin with. So I feel like he felt like a sense of responsibility because their dad just dipped out after putting us through so much heck. So he and I were co-parenting, and they were supposed to stay the night that night, so the weekend that I had just worked, and she went and picked them up when I was asleep.
Who did? I'm sorry.
Bio incubator.
Okay.
My incubator. She locked me out of the house. I had a note on the door that said I was my 2 weeks notice. After, mind you, she upped my rent again, told me if I didn't pay my rent, that large amount of rent, I was sleeping in the garage with the dog. My daughter still can repeat that to anybody this day, because it was said in front of her. And she was taking 3/4 of my food stamps and collecting money for rent and bills from me. So, like, mind you, and I just bought a car from her that wasn't even hers to sell to me. She collected all that money from me, and then I still happened to be able to stash money enough to get out of her house. And when she found out I was leaving, that's when she started this whole formality of paperwork, because she had a friend that is the supervisor at Family Foster Services. Won't be by the time I'm finished making my rounds with all the paperwork and proof I have on everyone, because I've learned as early on in the court system, you do not make a statement or make any form of an accusation of another without black and white printed proof. Period. Like, I will not. Like, even if I can say this person, I personally witnessed this person do A, B, and C. If I have a photograph of only B, then I'm only going to state I saw this person do B. You know, I'm not going to say A and C if I cannot prove it, you know, kind of thing. So I got proof of everything, but she had this woman walk her through how to do all of this. She was getting information on my children's therapy and counseling I had gotten them into behind my back and everybody's back illegally. Because they, unfortunately, the only place my children, they had children's counseling for the PTSD that we were going to counseling for from their father's abuse and stuff that we endured. And my poor decisions, you know, us both being kids, having kids, and my, you know, poor decisions of staying with their dad too long and all that stuff, you know, they needed counseling, and so did I. I had them in it and was accused that I didn't, but then here Jenny, or incubator, came behind me and was getting her best friend to give her all of the information and notes from my daughter's counseling sessions. And she utilized and manipulated it to her advantage as well through the case, or to get this case. I weirdly enough, in October of 2014, I had CPS come do a walkthrough. I called CPS on myself. I was going through the court system of finalizing my sole physical custody in the state of California, because I had left with a group had not snuck me out per se, but helped swift me out of Maryland very quickly, because my ex-husband was very violent and had made death threats to me in front of police officers in the past. And he had been coming up to Maryland, and there was just no sense of safe or secure, feeling secure or safe. And my daughters didn't either. They were terrified of their father. They did not want to see him at all. They were scared to crap of him. And so I had to make the decision to move as far away from him as I possibly could, and a place that would be safe and comfortable for them to heal. And that was Lake Tahoe. So I thought. So that's what then when I say we had to have them in counseling stuff before CPS even got involved, that is why. You know, they have witnessed a lot of domestic violence between their father and I. He did a number on me for quite some time.
Now, did you say that he was on any substance or alcohol?
Oh yeah, he drank. He's still to this day a drinker. He's an alcoholic. They had gotten him, he went to jail for beating her up, his previous wife, his most recent previous wife, then beating the heck out of each other while my daughter was there in the home. She's the one that called me and said, come get your effing kids. We didn't even want them here in the first place. He just wanted to hurt you. He tried to
come get your kids.
His girlfriend that he had at the time is now his most recent ex-wife.
Now,
yeah, he gave his rights up to his daughters to be able to marry this woman.
Have you ever had, do you have a history of alcohol?
I've dependency, of course, when at points for pain medication, which I now take myself off of regularly with, in between surgeries. I've had 25 surgeries. I just had a prosthetic shoulder put in a year ago. I went home 3 days early from the hospital. I did not even stay a full 24 hours of the 3 days that I was supposed to stay. I refused IV, pain medicine, and narcotics upon leaving recovery. My bed was rolling down that hallway. I put my hand over that tube and I told them nothing is to go in here without my knowledge, and no narcotics, absolutely none. And they're like, may I ask why? Like, you're going to need them. You're going to put yourself in a really bad place where you're going to have fentanyl, because I have that listed as don't ever put that in my IV because it makes me angry, all of that stuff. And it just scares the crap out of me after losing friends and people to that out of nowhere. It just scares the crap out of me. I know it's different still. No need for it. And so I got myself home in 18 hours. So I worked really hard I've been at risk. That's what I would say. And that's what counseling and all of the professionals I've been forced to see has said. This girl does not have a drug problem. Like, she can drop them and walk away, broken foot or not.
But
Broken foot or not.
becomes dependent upon it.
Yeah. However, your brain, you have to disconnect that calcified, because we have calcified that connection with the receptors of feeling pain and not feeling pain and the communication properly. And you've got to bust that off. Like, you have to, not allow that type of. I've done a lot of research and study on it because I knew I was at risk, because my biological mother's an addict to its fullest. I have a twin brother. He's not here, never was here, born alive, because she took too much Percocet while she was pregnant with us.
And wow, I'm sorry to hear that. I am the same way, off and on the pain meds. I've had 110 surgeries.
Oh my gosh. I thought I was
10 in 4.5 years.
Girl.
Yeah. And
you're a freaking miracle. Like, I cannot believe. Are you serious? Wow.
No, I'm dead serious. And so I'm off and on.
Oh my
when
God.
I don't need the pain meds, I get off of them.
Absolutely.
And I don't ever have a problem. The doctor's always like,
what? Yeah, you can't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Yeah.
Always do it cold turkey.
So you need to. Your body needs to feel that. It has to. If your body doesn't feel that, you're going to end up down that dark path that I'm sure you've watched many of your loved ones go down. And I have that drive to not have that issue.
That's exactly it. My ex-husband was hooked on meth for 5 years or more.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how.
I've never been drunk, and I don't have any desire. But like you said, I don't have any desire to live that way. But like you said, we have to be aware, because nobody
can creep up on you.
Yeah, nobody is, what's the word? You're not safe.
Resistant. Yeah, resistant. You're not above addiction. You're not above having a dependency problem or a drug problem or any addiction form. There's food addiction, there's internet, there's so many, there's hundreds of thousands of different addictions out there. Like, I have one. I have a shoe problem, like, straight up. When they asked if I had an addiction problem, I honestly would say back then I smoked cigarettes. I'd say cigarettes and shoes.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? We're not joking. And I said, neither am I. I don't know what you've been told, or actually I do. I know what you've heard, but you got in the blood test, you got in my hair. I know you went back way further than a year, and it showed nothing, except for legal stuff. Like, I had my medical marijuana card. I'm a cancer survivor. You got your Heine. I'm going to be exercising my right for, organic medication and homeopathic medication at all costs.
You use it?
I do when I'm allowed to and able to legally. Right now I am in a state that medical marijuana is legal, but the governor in Chattanooga says no. Jesus called him on the phone and told him that it's not okay. So I don't maybe laugh, but he really did say that. And it was just like, whoa, you kind of sound off your rocker, sir. But in California, absolutely. Every time I've been in California, I have a tumor in my lung. I shrank. I have it on record. I have paperwork proving it. I left here with the documentation and the paperwork of it. And now I have paperwork proving that after being in California for 6 weeks, exercising my medical marijuana, the tumor was almost undetectable. Gone.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you had a tumor in your lung.
I have it. It's back. It's twice as large. It's large enough for them to remove it now. I have them in my throat, all back here. They want to take them out and all of that. I have a scan Friday, the ultrasound for them all. I have like had that one since
Oh wow. Yeah.
day one, and that's it's tucked back right now. That's at like, and then them up under here, like I'm pulling up and out under my chin and stuff. It's crazy. That one might not go because it hurts, but
I
then I have
saw
like
the
one right
little.
here. I have one right here that's just out of nowhere, weird tubular, like
Yep. I see that.
right there. It's crazy. They're everywhere, and that's what I was originally sick with and hiding when I lived with my incubator. When I first got cancer, she went and maxed me out on life insurance. She didn't fly across the country to come sit by my bedside when I had multiple surgeries. She didn't do any of that. She went and got me maxed out on life insurance. So mind you, the woman that's been driving and the main force of this case, because it's the one thing you can do to a woman is take her heart and soul when she was meant to be a mother and fought to be, you're going to put that woman close to in the ground, if not in the ground. And that was her goal. She made a promise to me in her kitchen during our volatile times in her home at the end. After she found out I wasn't getting money from the Army for her to have, and that I was getting money for education, and I wasn't going to be living with her, and she wasn't getting her hands on it.
Yeah.
She has a gambling problem and always has. And that's when she put her plan in motion. I was stupid. She had hired an attorney in North Carolina when my ex-husband had me falsely arrested. She hired herself a lawyer while I was sitting in a jail cell with severe medical conditions. Hired herself a lawyer to sue me and my ex-husband for custody.
Why
And
were you in the jail?
he claimed I violated a protective order. I was never even served, and I never violated the protective order. I wasn't even in the county at the time. It was my aunt and her daughter that went to see my kids at their school in North Carolina. He and I were supposed to have shared custody and every other weekends and stuff, and he wasn't bringing the girls back. He wasn't bringing them to me. He let me take them when they were sick and keep them for 3 weeks, and then called the cops to have them picked up afterwards once I had gotten better. So, like, my kids have been through it. That's why they needed counseling. And one of them was ripped out of a closet by a police officer, forced to go back to her daddy's and his girlfriend. And I'm not knocking the profession, but she was an exotic dancer and an aspiring porn star. And you can imagine the sounds of my daughter. And my daughter is very, very beyond inappropriately sexual for as young as she is. And I mean, younger is when because she heard too much. People don't realize kids, like you did, you asked to make sure there was not a child in this room hearing any of this,
Right.
as well. So we kind of jumped a little. I've got my note cards to keep on track a little bit, but yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. So, let's start talking about the kids now.
Okay, my favorite topic. So my daughters, one is 12. She'll be 13 in April and is in 5th grade. Mm-hmm. And then I have the other one who is in 5th grade as well, who will be 11 tomorrow. That's their way of telling them something's wrong, something is wrong, get me out of here. I taught my daughter. How to get help when you're afraid and hide it from the person when you have no way to reach out and get yourself help as a child. Like, we had those talks after they had been in the foster care system. So I have a daughter that is going to be 13 in 5th grade. Sorry, 5th. Fifth. She will graduate high school at 20 years old if she sticks with it. If I can't get my hands on her and show that our promise to the death is real. Mommy didn't stop fighting, and I kept doing what you asked me to do while I didn't have you, which my kids asked me to help other kids. That's what they had.
Why is she 13 and in 5th grade?
Her father took off on the run with her when she was in 1st grade, so she had to redo 1st grade over. She refused to read. She knows how to read and she can spell. She's very smart. She's always been extremely smart.
Yeah.
Her father slapped her upside the back of the head one time when he was drunk, and she was just in kindergarten trying to read a book. And since his roommate's daughter was super smart and younger than her and could read, he slapped her on the back of the head and called her an idiot. And from that moment forward, she refused to pick a book up and read. So she was damaged from it. So fast track to Lake Tahoe. I had her getting caught up. Her teacher and I decided to leave it alone. Don't even press the issue of reading with the homework and stuff. Times that I can trick her into reading, and messing with her, making it intriguing by it being like, ooh, she's not supposed to read what I wrote, and then I catch her and she's read what I wrote, kind of things. Kind of tricking her into it. And it was working. It was working because I explained to her, I was like, she knows how to read, and you guys are telling me she can't spell her name? BS. She's been spelling it and tracing it on my wrist since she was 2 years old. You're out of your mind. The child can write every letter to her name. Don't tell me she can't.
Wow.
So they had me hold her back. The CPS had me sign papers to hold her back because she couldn't read, right? I had the MRSA and was sepsis at this point, and the only indoor place we could play with the snow was McDonald's play place, Germ R Us. I'm not allowed to play. I wasn't allowed to play in there. The doctor's like, you'll die. Do not go touching that. Don't go in there. And I told her parents aren't allowed to. And she goes, Mommy, it says right there, parents play too. I said, and you just told me my kid can't read and that's why she's being held back. No, she won't read. It is her way of telling you up yours. I don't like my current situation. I need someone to pay attention and someone I trust to help me fix it. And she still to this day has yet to get that help. And it stay there. Let's say that. I don't say get that help and then it stay there. Because my best friend from middle school, Zach, best friend from middle school, Teddy Bear, he's gonna kill me for that. He stepped in. Teddy Bear?
Teddy Blaze.
Since we were very young, 10 and 12. I was 12 and he was 10 or 11. We met in middle school. My daughters love the story of us meeting because he was being really mean to his mother and used dirty names. And I knew he was basically legally blind without his glasses. I just swooped him right off his face. It was at an open gym type thing that our school did on Friday night. So there's all of our kids everywhere, being a cool kid. And I told him he wasn't getting him back, so he apologized for talking to his mother that way. But he didn't talk to his mom that way. It was inappropriate. And I was in 8th grade. He was in 6th or 7th. And then he apologized to her. I gave him his glasses, and we've been best friends ever since. We ended up living across the street from each other. And so the kids love that story. But he stepped in, and he had to move across the state line. He lived a mile in Nevada, so even though he was approved foster parent, he got a house in less than 48 hours, paid for, set up, and ready to rock and roll for 2 kids, and passed the CPS walkthrough by that following Monday morning.
Wow.
The kids were getting ready to go into respite, if you know what that is. I don't know if you know what that is.
In respite. Yes.
Yeah. And
yes,
I wasn't.
Would you like
I wasn't having that.
Would you like to explain to people who are not aware?
So in respite is when kids are being removed from a home due to proven allegations on the foster care parents, or there's concerns, or there is just no placement for that child that would be fitting, or any of those. Basically, if there's nowhere for the child to go, it's like basically putting the child in a figuratively, as a cage, metaphorically, a cage in a way, like, waiting, holding cell. It's not even a group home either. It's not even ran like that. And while they're there, they don't even have any belongings that are familiar to them. They have just what is on their back. They are not explained to them about anything. They have no idea what's going on. They're never told what is going on. Obviously, these kids start to figure it out over time, sadly. But it's just like basically an idling location. It could be anything from a hotel room with a social worker to staying at a social worker's home if they're a younger child.
I'll read you the quick definition. It's a planned or emergency temporary care provided to caregivers of a child or adult. So respite programs provide planned short-term or time-limited breaks for families or other unpaid caregivers of children with a developmental delay, children with behavioral problems, and adults with intellectual disability, and adults with cognitive loss in order to support and maintain the primary caregiving relationship. So I was actually offered this for my children. No, I would not. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I mean, foster care is almost just as scary, if not scarier, because it's like Russian roulette, especially after you hear what my children went through. But, oh, yeah, it's nauseating.
No, I was offered it for two reasons. Number one was because of when I got my kids back, they were both very,
Mad
yes,
at you?
yes, but
Yeah, and at the everything.
and took it out on everything. I
Everything, everyone, every item. I mean, it could be, yeah. I mean, I saw it in my kids
destroyed my
during.
home. They tried physically hurting me.
Oh my
They were
gosh.
acting out like it was
That's what I fear for with my oldest right now. She's hurting her own sister right now.
that was what my kids did. It was really bad. And then the other reason is if I ever needed to go to the hospital on an emergency, I can use that. But I found um, something even better, and it's a biblical based program.
A
And
lot of
it,
counties have this. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, dang.
I have it here. I know what you're talking about. I've literally
Oh,
been doing what you're doing apparently on my own, but I'm doing it to build a large enough class act to
yep,
get things changed. Protocol needs to change when anybody is coming to interact with a child on a professional
yep,
situation.
yep.
Period. An advocate for that child needs to be the first phone call anybody makes before Child Protective Services.
Okay, so I'm going to ask questions, and then I want you to do your best to stay
Focused and
on track with that question. Okay, so tell me the day that CPS first showed up in your life. You,
so
it doesn't have to be to a T that day, but you know what I mean.
So roughly around September, October of 2014.
Okay,
If we're not counting when I called them on myself just to get the walkthrough and, trying to get resources for myself and my children. However, I was too good of a mother and too good at struggling to provide, and my kids not see that struggle, that they wouldn't help me. So they signed off on me, having custody of my children until they were 18. I had full physical legal custody until they were 18.
okay. And
CPS
that's
signed
because
off
you called just to
for a
get,
wellness checkup because I knew my ex-husband was playing his funky stuff on this side, crying, oh, she's stealing my rights, stealing my kids. And it was, no, I'm making your kids healthy and protecting them. And the stipulation was he must go get counseling and go through the CPS program, basically to get physical contact with his children again. Plus, the children would have to want to because they don't have a desire. So come to find out, my incubator had been calling them behind my back since I had arrived. She was
arrive
making
where?
those documented calls because her friend that works at Family Foster Services was guiding her on what timing, when, what to say. Got a bunk bed and put it up in her bedroom, saying, oh, I just want to be able to give you more space. You don't have much space down there, blah, blah, blah. So then she was able to take photographs and frame and say that I was not caring or taking care of the children when it was the total opposite. She did not help at all. She made life a living hell on purpose. She did everything against the grain with me on purpose.
Hold on, you said that she had been calling since you
Since
arrived,
June 14th, 2014,
but arrived where?
in Lake Tahoe.
At her home, right? Because you were staying there.
I was staying with her.
Okay, so
She had a second bedroom in her home.
I'm just gonna, as we go, I'm gonna repeat what you're saying. So your biological mother, you came to stay with her, and you started staying with her in June of 2014. And
Yes.
since June of 2014, your biological mother had been calling CPS behind your back, and now we are in September, October-ish.
And CPS shows up asking me to come in and do, wellness. They'd gotten some complaints. And I was like, oh, I already know who this is. Because
Did you know?
I knew it was her. I knew it was her. Absolutely. I knew it was her.
Okay.
Because I have supersonic hearing. But for most of my life until this year, did I tell anybody how well I can hear? Like, I mean, I hear so well at times that it can make me crazy if I don't find a way to, like, I let people wonder why I listen to music so loud or put your headphones in constantly. And it's because I can hear something that is like a half a mile away sometimes. So I heard of what she was up to, and I had a family member warn me, call me and tell me, watch your back. She's trying to get you and pounce. She wants to take those kids from you and have you put in a ha-ha house. And she even told me if it was the last thing she did, I would not have anything to do with my children and I'd be in a mental ward. So.
Okay, so you were saying you could hear really well, and so now
I knew it was coming.
Yeah,
so they were there to check on the kids and see, like, ask me questions, do the standard first, get in the door. So then they had requested me to take a drug test, which I was fine with until I saw paperwork that they wanted me to sign, giving them access to everything that is pertaining to my life medically and emotionally. All of my therapy notes in my whole life. We're talking about whole life. Why? Why am I signing that over to you? Hold on. And that's what stopped me. I went into the place several times, spoke to the women in there, and built even a rapport with them. I actually now have a relationship with one of them, like full blown, and she's one of my adopted moms, is what I call her. But it was just that one thing I was refusing. I'll do hair, blood, whatever. And so CPS said I was willing to take this test 1 minute, and then all of a sudden not compliant, that they feel that they need to go ahead and do a warrant basis thing, and
hold on, you cut out.
But the only reason
cut out. CPS said they feel that they need to do a what?
They needed to do it on like a judge court ordered basis, because at first there was no case, no open court, anything. It was just like the investigative period. So as I know, but other people may not know that at first when CPS shows up at your door, you should always step outside and talk to them. You don't ever let them enter your home. They are a need a warrant agency. They cannot come in your home without a warrant, period. And in order to get that warrant, they must have proof to these accusations that are being made on you. It can't just be a family member playing retaliation, which happens quite a bit, like this situation. And the kids become the pawns in this nasty, disgusting quarrel between family. So you don't let them in your house. Well, I was stuck in a crummy situation because the individual reporting me was able to give them permission to go in her home. Biological's home, and she's the one that called and reported me. So when she made the report and asked for the checkup, she went ahead and gave them full permission to enter her home.
Because I was going
to do that. Slick, very slick. So once they enter that threshold, they have grounds to run your life, and nobody realizes that. I didn't either. I did not realize that.
I answered the door.
I was working with them. I was actually compliantly calling them back during 2014. I had nothing to hide, and so I was like, all right.
And people think that. Who answered the door when they came?
I did. It was me and the girls that were there. The door was open because my incubator, literally, she stacked as much as she could on me. She was trying to break me because I had been misdiagnosed years back with bipolar disorder, possibly. But then he also said, I don't know. She's had a really rough go at life, like dealt a really crummy hand of cards, medically, home life, everything. Like it could just be the circumstances, not clinical. And that's what we came to find out, with me going through the menopause. All women that go through that change are technically insane, temporarily insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just fact. Yeah,
your body is spazzing out. All of your hormones are out of control. It's just your moods are It's just horrible.
insane.
It's a really horrible time.
Yeah, you can appear to be bipolar, definitely, you know? And so she utilized that. She is a biological mother. And I was able, and I was so clouded because I was leaving my ex-husband at that point. His unit had been attacked, and my friend's husband, his best friend, had been killed. I mean, it was just all this stuff all at once at me. And yeah, I was like, my psychological checked out. And so what they now have diagnosed it as was a dissociative disorder. My psyche, to protect me, to be able to sit here today, cognitive, fully together with my feet, fully together with my 2 feet underneath me. People always have lots of room to work on themselves and growth. But I wouldn't be where I am today if my psyche didn't step in to protect me the way it did. Is how the
So,
psychiatrist had explained it to me, as I was like separating from my body and would
yeah.
just walk back and forth and appear to be inebriated or, nodding out but no, I heard everything around me. I was taking in everything around me. I wouldn't respond. I would have delayed response to individuals when they would try to talk to me. I would shut down. I would start to shake. My body would shake. I literally was there watching myself go through that. Okay, Tristan, unless you're hurting, bleeding, or someone's in danger, please do not come in this room, okay? I know it's hard, baby cakes. We're gonna have fun this afternoon when mommy gets back with all of our stuff, okay? Okay.
That's so interesting. I really feel like it's mirrored. Our stories are mirrored because my therapist thought I had that as well. And just for people, I'm gonna read on that just a moment.
See, that's also why I was so excited and chased you to join this, and then come to find out it's full circle for me. Was you do the research, you do the educating, and there are so many people. Oh, I needed to post this right now on my page. There's so many people that in the massive group one that are looking for advice right now.
Yeah,
And you're doing it.
This is a lot of these mental. I don't know. I calling them mental disorders or issues.
Psychological and emotional illnesses.
Yeah.
Or tragedies, basically.
Honestly, I just hate referring to them, period. I don't know. But a lot of them, by the way, are caused by trauma.
Yes. It's a PTSD.
They're not something you're born with. They're not. And
chemically imbalanced.
Right. So
unless surgery, obviously, but
when you're disassociating, the other words that you can use, and you said it very well, but separation, detachment, disconnecting, basically you're daydreaming. So
yes.
what's happening is you're there and it's like an out-of-body experience, and you're in 2 places at once. And so what happens basically is a trigger. So a smell, a sound, a feeling, could be anything.
A noise.
Yeah, takes you back to a situation that you've experienced. And so you're still here, but I'm not participating in conversation, even though I can hear.
Yeah, it's almost like people having small seizures.
Yes, but I'm not communicating back. And I'm actually at the other thought in my head. So the definition is disconnection and lack of continuity between thoughts, memories, surroundings, actions, and identity. Now, a lot of people with this can actually get multiple personality disorder as well. That is not what is. I definitely did not have that. I'm not sure.
I don't feel that either. I wouldn't. I don't get that from you either.
Yeah, basically what happens with that, so it's everything I just said except for another layer with it. What happens is and it isn't you intentionally, but your body, your brain creates another character
and
Oh,
this
is
only
that so?
happens,
That's for the multiple personality portion,
yes,
right? Okay.
this can only happen out of trauma. You cannot be born with this. So
Yeah.
most of the time it is with physical or sexual abuse.
Hmm.
And so instead of that person, so I'll use myself as an example. And no, I do not have this. um, and I'm not laughing at it. I'm just saying.
No, you got to bring a sense of laughter or humor to like the discomfort level. You know, balance.
It is
It's the balance.
uncomfortable, and I feel
Yeah, it's balance.
absolutely. When I learned all about this, when I did a bunch of research to understand the mind and how it works and how this is created, oh, it broke my heart. And so people are not, they're not
It's
crazy.
yeah. It's,
They're not, it's nothing to make fun of or to, anyways. So everything I just said, and so let's say that I am a child and I am being, again, physically or sexually
yeah.
abused.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to carry that around. So my brain creates another person with inside myself, and now that person is marked with that trauma. I am clean. It has not happened to me. Now we all share the same body, we all share the same everything else, but we all have different personalities, characteristics, everything else
DNA though too. Yeah, all that.
different. It's crazy. So
Yeah.
that
It's interesting. It is, and it was so much easier once I had someone take the time to really go back, like you kind of did with me, on when did you ever in your life. So we went all the way back to when I was 3, and having a professional physician and then also a psychiatrist and then a counselor, them all together, knowing this story of my beginning, the creation of me,
yes.
to the point of what was sitting in front of them, and really caring, because I don't have insurance right now. These doctors all donate. There's a program called Charity Care. All of my treatment to me right now is
Oh,
donated. As long as they continue to see the patient grow and work hard towards
yep.
their physical good health, they're going to continue to pay for the surgeries. They're going to continue to pay for me to fight for better quality of life than I already have. And they have gotten me so far. I mean, it's heartbreaking because I can't sit there and be if I had my girls right now, all that we could have been doing and this, that, and the other, because of what I've done with all these other children. I have such amazing memories with all these other children. I have it's a running joke of how many kiddos do you really have, Courtney? And we sat to count, and we got to 30 something, and we were like, we're done, because and they all claim me, Auntie Coco, Court. That's my aunt. That's how they explain who I am. Any child, all the way up to the adult children that are 18, 19, and 20 now. Auntie Coco is what they still call me to this day, or TT Coco. And it's hard, because I want to be like, if they had figured all this out, my kids be with me, and me in the physical health I am today, and I have been since these doctors took this time. It didn't take long either. It did not take long. Within 6 months, I was more active and more mobile and more mentally sound in so many different areas. It was insane. After 6 months of straight being able to take care of me for a minute. I had asked for 12 months from CPS and the friend that stepped in to keep the kids out of danger. 12 months of them not controlling my schedule and me going to take care of me, or I was gonna die. And they turned around and used that against me. So we kind of went off again, but so
Yeah.
CPS,
Okay. So they knock on your door.
they actually just stick their head in.
Okay.
It was a
They
sliding glass door. It was open.
got it. They ask you to do a drug test. You
I
say no.
agree. I agree at first until I see that they want me to sign over my private counseling and medical notes all the way back to when I was a minor.
No.
Just the pee in a cup.
No.
Yeah, that's what I was accused.
and they have no warrant.
Nope.
And now because
Um,
you're saying no, now they're threatening one.
But they couldn't get one, and I knew they couldn't at that point because I'd done nothing wrong. They had no anything. So then she gets mad, and you back a triad into a corner, and you better run. Better be able to run fast. If anybody, psychological world calls it a triad. And I've
Now,
had multiple psychiatrists.
did they ask to go through the house?
Yeah, they walked through the house. They talked to my daughters. My girls were chatty Cathy's and, showing them this and look what mommy and I did yesterday. And we're going to do this after you guys leave. Like, I was very active with them and they were told everything to, CPS, oh, this, that, the other. And they're like, everything seems fine. Can we if you just take this drug test to disprove this allegation of you using heroin and meth, then we can get out of your life and go our way separate ways. And I was like, all right, gravy. Sounds all great and well, but I got to get out of this house simultaneously. Otherwise, we're never going to have you out of my life because this woman's not going to stop until she gets what she wants or she gets caught up with the illegal behavior that she is and actions to get what she wants. And so I kind of worked really hard, got registered into school, got grants, got all this stuff, got the girls set up where their school was. I found a place that was literally in this little center of the triangle. College, grocery store, everything to the left, their school and other grocery stores to the right, everything within a half a mile of the house, half a mile to a mile. I think their school was a little bit more like 3 or 4, but at the end of the day, if an emergency and I had no vehicle or snow or whatever, I could truck 4 miles for my child's well-being. Yeah. And the college had an after-school program where they would come, they'd be bused to the after-school program and have their homework being worked on while I'm wrapping up in my last class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then Mondays and Wednesdays, they would just ride there and we'd be leaving pretty quickly after they arrived because my other class would end. I had that all mapped out, everything. She found the paperwork. I left it out. I left it out on our kitchen table. My biological mother, my incubator, and she was angry, freaking out because her dollar signs are going to be leaving and gambling problems. She had climbed herself into really bad debt with all these payday loan places because that paperwork had been left out. And one was just as recent as the month that the CPS ended up actually getting their hooks in, which was January of 2015 is when they were able to hook me. Was January 2015 off of her mastermind orchestrated plan that literally she was walked through this entire situation by a foster care professional. Guided her on how to do this whole situation.
From September, October to January, nothing really happened.
We would just fighting in the home. She would say inappropriate, god awful, nasty stuff to my children. We would not be home as much as possible. Literally just show up for bedtime, dinner, bed. We started doing dinner at my buddy's house, rest in peace, that watched me grow up, him and his girlfriend, because his girlfriend actually was really close to my brother growing up. They knew what kind of mother or lack thereof I had. There's people that have known me 20 years and they couldn't tell you what my mother looked like. They could be standing right next to her, face to face to her, and they wouldn't know that was my mother, my biological mother. They'd have until recently because of Facebook. But
why couldn't they tell if it was her or not?
They never saw her. She was never ever. I mean, even people that lived in my neighborhood that would come over to my house, she was either shut in her bedroom or she was gone to the casino.
Okay.
Always. Like when I had my first traumatic injury where I had to be rushed to the hospital, this is how bad I worried about this kind of like money was an issue as a child. And it's like, I have my childhood robbed and now she's trying to do it to my kids and it's being successful. But they called the ambulance because they couldn't get a hold of her. They couldn't find her. And I said, no. Oh no, that costs like $10,000. Don't do that. I know where she's at. Call this number. And it was a casino. It was their main line. And I said, have her paged. And so I had her paged and put on the phone and put the phone in my ear. And I was like, I need you to come get me right now. I'm on the floor at open gym. My shoulder is completely dislocated. I cannot get up. And so she came to get me and, took me to the hospital. But I had to tell them to call a casino to find my mother. You know, they couldn't reach her on her cell phone or any of that. And it was just, she was never around. She was never around. No one, never at my sporting events. I still hold records and gold medals for multiple different sports and sporting events. She went to a total of 3 in 6 years. 6 years, multiple volleyball games. I fought to play volleyball even with bad shoulders. Every single year I showed up, and even when I was having surgery, I dressed out every day for practice with those girls and sat on that bench, and I would teach Mother on how to do it, you know, and I lived, breathed, and ate volleyball, but had 2 shoulder surgeries by the time I was a junior. No, my senior year was when I had the right one done. It was my homecoming senior game, my right one fell out, and I had to have surgery. And embarrassingly enough, guess who wasn't even there to take me to the hospital then when the entire stadium was full?
Wow.
My best friend's mother had to leave. It's a nurse. While her daughter was on the floor, on the court, playing her senior homecoming game, mind you, to be there for me and get me to the urgent care to get my shoulder put back in place. Because when mine dislocate, they dislocate down to the ribs type stuff, tear everything up. So that's part, you know, replacement prosthetic. It's all metal. It's all my tissue, but none of the structure is mine up here. It's a prosthetic, and I actually have played volleyball for the first time since high school, since they put it in, and now I have the left one coming. But so yeah, it was embarrassing. She's never around, so that's why no one could tell you who she was, what she looked like. Now they know what she looks like because she reached out to every person on my Facebook page when this all started, making all of her crazy accusations.
Yeah. Okay,
But
so CPS comes, they're kind of maybe just checking in and stuff from October to January.
on the phone, yeah. I've met up with them at my daughter's counseling one other time.
Okay.
When they were like, why won't you go take this test? I said, why can't I just go to my doctor and take one? Why can't we do it at the hospital or something and chain of command that way? Why do I have to sign this big old packet of underlining small fine print?
It's good that you read that paper. I don't think I've ever even noticed that. So anybody that's listening, make sure you always check the papers that CPS hands you.
Outpatient rehab facility. Rehab for PTSD, rehab for drugs, rehab for sex, rehab for whatever. Their packet has it. I've researched it. Almost every outpatient facility that is a agency working, or that is a third-party business rather, that works with the CPS agency has that in their packet. It is CPS that drew up the guidelines to this packet as well. It's a different packet than if I went in there as a regular client on my insurance. Totally different packets are signed. Reason I know this is because we'll get to this later on eventually, I guess. With CPS, I had that my reunification services shut down. Had no idea that meant, okay, now we're going for your rights, Chica. You're done. I had personally requested them to be stopped so that I could go get healthy while my kids were safe. And he was supposed to be able to be my supervisor. You know, is she in a good state of mind, or does she look okay and not too sick to come give the kids a bath, feed them dinner, lay them down and put them to bed? Because I lived literally 1 street over from his house, and I lived across the street from their gym where they went to gymnastics, and I watched them every Friday go. I behaved. My children never even knew I lived that close to them till the very end of our case. I was always that close to them. When they lived and got moved back into my incubator's home, because they got removed from her, I lived next door to them, and they never knew. I'm kid you not.
Somebody in the comments came up with the word I was looking for earlier. It's immune. We are not immune.
Immune to addiction, yes.
Yeah.
We should have known that word, the two of us.
I know, but it was missing. So thank you, Garrett, for coming up with that.
Garrett, thank you for being here.
So you have
quite
a few people that have checked in to listen to your story.
I have a huge, huge support system. I kid you not. And they are all just like a built family since childhood. that just know me and know my character and came and visited me and through all of this, or vice versa. And they're just like mind blown that this is continuing still to this moment right now.
Okay. So let's go to January 2015. Tell me what happens that.
January 18th of 2015, Martin Luther King weekend, 3-day weekend. I had just worked long, like I said, the teddy bear had them, and I was going to get them the following day, and we were all four going to go do something. They were going to show me them riding their bikes without training wheels. He had taught them how to do that while I was at work and videoed it.
Oh.
So I was supposed to go watch them do that.
Tell me why they were at his house. What were you
He
doing?
was co-parenting with me because biological incubator would not help. She did everything she could to make things impossible. However,
Where
got
where
hold
were
of him.
you though? What were you doing?
I was at work. I worked at the ski resort. I was working.
Okay. So he's helping
I
you.
worked a full-time job, at least 40 to 60 hours, 60, sometimes 60 hours a week outside in the elements of Lake Tahoe.
Got it.
On the ski resort mountain in blizzards all day, because they don't shut down because it's snowing. No, they get busier. You know, like I am out there all day. And so I'd worked 13 days or 12 days straight, done 4 or 5 hours at the kids' school because we had the walkathon coming up, and I had volunteered at both of my kids' classes to make it, you know, balanced and even. I was tired. I was exhausted and spent, and it was going to be late by the time I got in because I was doing carpool, paid by Kirkwood to carpool people back because the bus was maxed out. The employees that rode the employee bus, they didn't have enough seats on the employee bus, so they would pay individuals such as myself to make double trips and stuff like that. So I didn't get back to the house. I wasn't going to be back in town till way after 9:30. Just best to leave them with it blizzarding outside, you know, leave them in the warm house until the next day. We were going to get together anyways and, you know, go from there. And she had other plans that she had already put in effect. I got there to a note on the door on the 18th saying it was my 2-week notice due to my meth and heroin use while living in her home. Yeah.
So
I couldn't tell you what either had looked like at that moment in time. Obviously, now being court ordered into all this craziness, and there being other individuals there for their own various reasons in these groups, I've been very educated now. I've been well educated. But at that moment in time, I couldn't tell you what either was or which one was what or anything at all. Like, green was as far as I had ever ventured.
right. Me.
And so the door was locked. I was locked out. Her car, I couldn't tell you if her car was there or not. So I went back into my vehicle. I was tired, man. I had just, like I said, 12 days straight and stuff, and just done the girls' laundry and all that to make sure they had all that for the next week, blah, blah, blah. And I fell asleep in my vehicle and woke back up at like 11 and thought, okay, I'll try the door again because a light was on that wasn't before. And that note was gone as well. Because it posted where I couldn't get to it, you know, like take it myself to stash away in my golden goose box of, you know, oh, you didn't write that? Okay, so what's this? Kind of thing. I've been collecting those since I was 13. But anyhow, door was unlocked magically. I was in so much pain. My back, I have a S-curve in my back in 2 locations on top of the MS, you know, and so I had broken it when I was 17, peer pressure at its finest. I can't really blame them though. I was the one that wanted to do it. But I went to lay on a yoga roll, those hard rolls that you put, you know, in the center of your back with my legs up on the ottoman of the couch. And I was like rolling on that roll. Well, apparently she started videoing me from up above because she had a loft bedroom that looked over the living room. You know, sitting there with my eyes closed, rolling on that yoga roll because I've seen the video. I'm like, you guys, look right there, look right here. Like I had to point it out to my parents that I'm with right now that in Tennessee. to explain to them why I was so upset with him. You could have used Google to go research what does someone with night terrors look like? What does someone on heroin overdose look like? They don't look the same at all. One is barely breathing or is full out seizing. The other one is speaking full words or saying no or combative in their sleep, night terrors. And that's what I suffered from was night terrors. And she videoed that and called an ambulance. She had already gone and picked my daughters up at this point, by the way, so that they would be present during all of this. She purposely exposed my kids to the authorities yet again after we had just finally gotten them okay with police and stuff because of what they had happened to them with their dad. And she turns around and manipulates and utilizes the children's well-being and, psyche and emotional state to benefit her main goal, which was have CPS involved. And so she called the ambulance. I wake up to a flashlight in my eyes during this night terror. So I'm like, what, combative at first. I jump up. I'm like, what is your problem? No, I'm very aware of what's going on. That psycho BITCH is trying to pull a fast one. The note's magically missing, but I was just given my 2-week notice or blah, 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 blah. And he's like, why do you seem like, why are you so worked up and so, talking so loud and fast? I said, because you just woke me up out of a nightmare with a flashlight in my face. I was like, then I look up and my daughters are here.
Okay, so I just want to repeat because I want to make sure that this is all in one night.
Yeah.
So you just get off of working a very long shift after working several days in a row.
Yes.
And you go home, your kids are with your neighbor because of your work schedule and stuff.
My best friend, he lived across the state line. He lived like 8 miles away.
Oh, I thought you guys said that you lived.
No, the neighbor shows up, which is a sheriff next after, and this next part. So,
okay, I apologize. So the kids, that makes more sense. The kids are with your best friend 8 miles away. And when you get home, the doors are locked and there's a note that says 2 weeks notice.
Mm-hmm.
So you go back to your car and go to sleep, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Then when you wake up, you go back to the door.
I see a light on that wasn't on before, so okay. I figured go try the door.
And the note is missing. Is the door still locked?
No, it was unlocked. That's how I got inside and onto the yoga roll.
Okay.
I was wearing, my what we call our colors. When you work at a ski resort, every department is a different color. Of snowboard, Hensley or whatever company at times snowboard and snow jackets. I was still in my all of my wet stuff. I was still in it and was freezing when I woke up, in my car because I didn't have the heater on or anything. So I went and laid in front of the fire on the yoga roll, her fireplace that she had on the yoga roll with my feet on, the ottoman up like you're supposed to when you're trying to, your lower back. Yeah. Help with your lower back. And because my coccyx bone is free, it's loose in there. And so I broke it at 17 in there and they couldn't take it out from where it was at. So it gets jabbed and stuff. So that's what I went and did immediately. Like I didn't even walk the house. I didn't even go check on anything because to my knowledge, just Miss Incubator was upstairs sleeping. And I quietly, took my shoes off and went in front of that fire. And that's where I ended up falling back asleep. She had videoed me while I was awake, but from above, it looks like I'm not conscious at all. She's up above me, secretly videoing me, stretching on a yoga roll that's underneath my back that is very hard to tell that it's there. So I look like I'm straight, I literally gave a perfect situation or scenario, but that was my routine as I always came home to that yoga roll, always after standing that long in the ice.
By the way, I have scoliosis and curvature, 2 S curves in my back too.
We could be related. My parent, on my father's side, we're a bit made off of adoptive parents. Both parents were adopted. My grandparents both were adopted and started our family. So we have no idea what our heritage is, our blood, our original last names, nothing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, it is crazy. I told you that's why I was like, reach out. She's like, this isn't by accident. I don't believe in it. And it was just too similar.
Yeah.
Everything I heard you say was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Wow.
He's asleep. Kids are in the room. Kathy went to Home Depot. So yeah, so you know exactly what I'm talking about with that yoga roll, the different size hard foamed rolls, and using them on your back in certain parts, and it laying either long ways or short ways.
Helps
and you get that relief. Yeah, heck yeah, you're gonna fall back. I fell back asleep with that roll right up under there, letting that pressure go in between in my lower spine, and I fell back asleep. And that's when she pounced. As soon as I was, jolting, because I twitch. I have multiple sclerosis. It is a neurological disorder. My involuntary muscle twitches while I'm awake. So when I actually fall asleep and I'm in my deep REM sleep, my body is jolting all over the place. I sleep on a very small space so that I don't wake up hurting as bad. The way I have to sleep. So she gets all this, and I'm in my REM sleep. She calls paramedics and says I'm overdosing. I'm seizing because I'm overdosing. And they believed it. Medical professionals believed this. And I'm like, you guys are retarded and playing into her hand right now. So yeah, of course I'm irate. Yeah, I'm angry. No, I will not get in your ambulance for you to take me and try to put me on a psych hold like she promised she'd have done. I can drive myself to your said hospital and give you my blood at any point in time, and y'all can follow me. You get in that car, ma'am. So by this point, they call the sheriff. It happens to be a friend of hers that happens to live in our neighborhood. Literally can see the top of his house from our porch. He shows up in his car and says, if you get in your vehicle, I will arrest you for a DUI. I said, you'll be falsely arresting me because as soon as you get my blood, you're going to see I am just pissed, angry, exhausted, tired, and can't believe professionals don't see past her BS. Like, I'm standing in front of you speaking very clearly and articulate. Like, how are you sitting here accusing me of ODing and this, that, and the other, but you're just so what was the word, combative, and no. Hello, I'm being railroaded and I know it's starting right now, and I'm freaking out because my kids weren't even supposed to be there. That was my main thing, is I was pissed. My kids were not supposed to be there. So I knew exactly what was going down. The police department was there and documenting my children in the home.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
You know what's so crazy? I have another coincidental story for you. I was told I had, I have seizures also. And one afternoon I was in the kitchen and I felt myself, something was happening in my body and I had no idea what it was. And I ended up having a seizure, but I stopped breathing. And
grandma seizures are what I said.
My kids had to call 911 and they had my husband come in, and this is when we were getting ready to split up, and he was on drugs, and I think I knew, but I wasn't sure. Anyways, he kept trying to put it on me. He was telling everybody I was on drugs. So he called 911 and told them I was overdosing on drugs. They came and shoved a bunch of Narcan.
Oh my God, and you had nothing in your system. Bless your heart. Oh my gosh, I heard that, how that makes you feel and how bad that can be. Oh my gosh, that can overdose you.
Yes.
Because of the agent, how they have it mixed. Oh my gosh, I got trained on that stuff to be able to administer it. I got trained on Narcan because of several family friends or family members of, by marriage of connection, have gone down that path and have stopped breathing so many times that I was trained when a friend of mine was actually in life support from, that. And so, yeah, when I went to finally visit them when they were okay and in a facility, they required all of the visitors to be trained in Narcan use and also in the receptors and the mental disconnect for addiction, why it's there and how, and like basically telling us we can't enable them, we can't baby them, blah, blah, blah. Like basically they required it before family members got to see the family member, which I think is really cool. It's one of the best programs I've gone through. But yeah, that's insane. That's the only reason I even know about the breakdown of Narcan is they explained it, and wow, I can only imagine. Like, holy, it's like a reverse. It's like reverse overdosing.
It
oh
is.
My God.
So, okay, let's go back. So the police show up, or the ambulance,
and then the police get called after I refuse to get in.
They say that they're gonna give you a DUI if you get in your car.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
Sheriff shows up and tells me that I'm going one way or another, and I tell him, fine, I'll get in your dang car. He says I have to put the handcuffs on you. Like, you need to put it in the front. This arm does not go back there. If you do make it go back there, you will officially have broken the joint bone.
And
the bone
your children
itself.
are there, correct? Watching all of this.
My children, yeah. Oh, yeah. She has them lined up over the banister, leaning over the banister, looking down, watching. And
what was their emotions like?
Concerned. My youngest was like, oh gosh, because my youngest, she knows her Nana's a monster. Like, I don't know why, if it's just she just knows, because when they were being sent back to her home after being removed when the case got opened, this will be a month down the road of January or whatever, but she cried and screamed, dude, cried. I have the video and audio of her begging anywhere but there. I'm like, you're talking about a child that has survived two foster homes of sexual abuse, is begging anywhere but her Nana's house. Why? I now know why, and we'll get there. But she was like, oh God, oh gosh, like concerned. She had picked up on, both of them knew that she was playing games with our lives, because when I took them four-wheeling with this same group, a support group I'd had and still have, they were like, why would Nana tell us to call the cops on you after we got where we were going? Is this illegal? I said, no, honey, it's made for us to four-wheel. It's a Jeep trail. We're going camping up here. You'll see. And then they're like, we love this. This is the best thing ever, blah, blah, blah. And we camp all weekend. So they had let me know, like my kids had let me know too, that, Nana's up to something. Nana's telling us to call the cops. Nana's telling us to do this, that, and the other. Why would she tell us to do this, Mommy? We're not doing anything wrong. I think you're the best mommy ever, except for when you yell at us, kind of things in conversations. And so, like, when I looked up, one of them was empty. One was empty, and that was my oldest. She had been being groomed. Her Nana has had her sleeping in her bed with her still to this day, to last time I had inside information. My oldest child sleeping in bed with a woman that is obsessed with the topic of molestation.
Obsessed with what?
The topic of molestation. She was molested when she was younger. So when she found out I was, multiple times throughout my childhood, various times, all times that she put me in those situations in the first place. Oh, it's okay, honey. It happened to me too. Literally, that just as coy as it could be. When I was 16, that was her statement. And then every person that's ever been around my children of the opposite sex has been accused of touching them inappropriately. Every single person.
Accused by who?
Her. Incubator. I have notarized sworn statements by her, accusing every individual all the way down to their father and my own father of being inappropriate with my children sexually. All been completely disproven. The last one was their own father, to the point where my daughter stood up and screamed, my daddy didn't hurt me like that. He never touched me there. Like, screamed it. So stop. Did my daddy hurt me? Yes. but no, not like that. Like, goes adamant because her Nana wouldn't stop with the topic. And she was getting inside their counseling, you know, infiltrating their healing and their treatment,
Oh my
manipulating
gosh.
for her benefit. Yeah.
I know I keep interrupting you and I apologize, but my mother did that too. She'd get in on their treatment, be in there with the therapist.
Which is illegal as hell.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And would sit there and tell the therapist same stuff.
And so it's completely derailing any of their treatment or any of their healing. When you're dealing with someone like my incubator, their psyche, the way it's become to be built, there is no true, real emotion or feeling towards the care of another individual's well-being of long-term and how they feel emotionally whatsoever. Their emotional and psychological well-being really, truly is, you could give 2 Fs when you're built like a triad. Anybody that doesn't know what a triad is, it's like the 3 categories of a psychiatric. The psychiatric world calls someone that will literally sit, I'd pull the definition up, but a triad will sit and plot for their multiple benefit, whatever it is that they have their mind set on, and they have mapped out this plan. There are some that have sat for 20 years for their outcome. They will literally and can completely fool everybody for 20 years for this particular outcome that they have been working towards, whether it be money, whether it be, you know, whatever, revenge towards someone, anything like that. A triad, like it's a mixture of a narcissist, I'm gonna have to pull it up. Anyhow, like she plotted this when she hired the attorney in North Carolina to sue me for custody of my kids. That should have been my first clue, to watch my back harder than I did to begin with. My great grandmother, who died at 99, the year this case was open, April of 2015, my kids, thank God, got to spend 48 hours with her, so they know who great great grandma is. You know, I had it held against me in court because I held them out of school at the beginning of the school year for a day and a half so they could spend time with their 98-year-old great great grandmother.
That's so ridiculous.
They had never met. I'm a bad parent for that. Like, so anyhow, my youngest was being groomed by her Nana to her motto always was divide and conquer. My biological mother, divide and conquer, divide and conquer. If you just divide, you can conquer.
No.
Don't, when they're united, you cannot defeat any unite. You have to divide the united to conquer. Always would repeat that to me. And then I ended up being on the other side of that. And I could hear that in my head. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's done it to my children. They were like this and looked out for each other. And now they're like this. One is terrified of the other and has right and reason to be. And that one's the one that looked empty. My oldest, she just looked empty. Like her everything of what I knew of her as my child was floated off, like just hanging above her. So you mind you, I had just worked 12 days because I was getting us into our own place. And they knew it. They were with me when we found it. My girls were with me when we found it. So, you know, like that's why my youngest was like, the look on my face, like, oh God, we were like a week away. We were a week away of freedom, you know, like out of here. And so the kids, it was rough. I didn't see them in the first visit.
Well, let's go back. So you got arrested, or
I got handcuffed and taken into a possible 5150.
Okay, how long were you there?
The amount of time it took the psychiatrist to get up the mountain from Sacramento, she spent an hour with me, walked out of the room and said, if you want to keep your job, you better discharge that patient right now. She is more than aware of what's going on around her, and there is more than enough thoughts connecting to show it. Okay. Discharge her. And so they did. Mind you, the police officer fractured my shoulder joint in that whole deal. Part of one of the fractures, I had an x-ray of it and proof of it now that I had my replacement done in the MRI and scans they took of it before replacing it. So, yeah.
So you get out of there, then where do you go?
That following morning, I get a ride from a coworker back to Jenny's. That's where everything that I owned was. She has now walked me out of the vehicle I had just given her over $2,000 for. My best friend, the teddy bear, had just put over $1,300 of tires on it.
You guys have a
And
contract?
no, it's in text message. I had it within text message of her selling me the vehicle. But it was my brother's vehicle. It wasn't even hers to sell. Do what?
Were you purchasing
Pardon?
the vehicle?
Yeah. Hmm.
How
I
much?
have it in message. I had all of it in message, still do. But of her having me go follow her in this rental car that she had to go pick up her new car that she had just purchased. My brother had to help her out yet again in life because of her gambling problem. She couldn't get a vehicle. She had no vehicle. She purposely lost a $500,000 home down in Gardnerville to bankruptcy because her ex-husband's name was on the house with her. It was her last up yours, John. So my brother needed to step in and help her. And apparently that vehicle was purchased by my brother, the Explorer that I was buying from her. It wasn't even hers to sell to me.
How much were you buying it from? For
$3,000. $3,000.
you had already paid.
I paid all the $3,000. She got the last $2,000 within that month that she kicked me out, or she was pulling this "you're getting evicted" stuff due to this and that. So once they got my clean blood test at the hospital, and the psychiatrist was like, "Get her out of here now," they did. And I went to her house. She was there, and I said, "You have to let me in." I was, I've got 2 weeks. Go. Thank you. I've got 2 weeks. Actually 13 days. So no, I'm here. I'm taking a shower. I'm getting out of these wet, cold clothes that I've been stuck in. Like, I was still in my ski clothes. And I'm taking a shower, and I'm going to get some warm, dry clothing on, and I'm going to make some phone calls and see what I can do about not being in this toxic house.
Right.
And I said, best believe I find a place that's stable. My children that I have full custody of are going with me. So she then has CPS call me on Saturday, begging me to make a verbal promise on the recording that I wouldn't remove my children from Jenny's home during the weekends. And I was going back and forth with this gentleman. And it's so hard not to say his name. He's one of the ones that has survived every single shutdown and investigation the FBI has done on South Lake Tahoe's Child Protective Service office. This gentleman has had his hands in every single time it's been rebuilt and opened and then shut back down. Pattern. But there's a pattern here. These two individuals that also, they're the last two that made it through all the way to my case of reopening 6 months after all their other colleagues ended up in jail and losing their licenses and stuff. These two somehow still keep their jobs, and they are the ones that are the force of my case with my biological mom. So he's the one that called me, and I told him, I'll promise you one thing. I will not rip my children out onto the street in an unstable environment. They will stay where they have 4 walls and a roof over their head and food to eat and a place that's familiar to them until I have found a safe and stable environment for myself and them. That is the only promise I will make to you. I have full legal custody of my children. And they kept me from seeing them the entire weekend. I kept trying to chase them. I was told they were teddy bears, so I would go over there. And they weren't there. And he was like, no, you're so-and-so, your incubator has them. I'm like, yo, where the F are my kids? I'm going to call the police. I have full custody of my kids. You guys are kidnapping my children right now. This is kidnapping. Where are my children?
Who gave them to your mom?
He did.
The friend, Teddy?
Yes. She had been grooming him to believe that I was possibly doing those things. And I don't know how or why he believed it. She got him to do really wrong and shady stuff. So we actually weren't talking for a good portion of the beginning of my case. He went to all these programs and went to all these support groups and became a foster parent so they could help my children out. And he was being denied access to the kids, like all these various different things. And we had a friend pass away that was near and dear to us and our childhood and who we are today. And the brothers are my best friends. There were 3 boys that I grew up across the street from first people I ever met when I moved to Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
One of them passed away and we all had gathered and he was there. And he tried to frame me for what she had reported me for. I, as you and I discussed openly, take myself cold off my medication. You know, just when I feel that I can handle it, I can consciously, you know, go through my life and mentally saying you can do this strong enough and still have a quality of life completely off the medicine. I was doing that because I knew what was coming. She was trying to frame me. I was told by my second cousin. And he had texted me and said, how's Mama Bear feeling? And I said, this is really hard to, you know, come off this shit like that. Excuse my language, but that's what I verbalized it.
What were you coming off of?
The pain medicine. I took myself off the pain medicine.
Which one?
It was oxycodone, and Maryland had me on Dilaudid. They had me on all kinds of, you know, Dilaudid 2 milligram tablets, roxycodone, you know, 15s. Like they had me on all kinds of stuff, and I didn't even take what I was prescribed, and it still was hard to come off of. I couldn't even imagine if I took the full prescribed dose. Oh, I would have had to go get help. I would have. There's no way. Because, I mean, I was hurting physically for a couple days with that Dilaudid coming out of my body. So, yeah, I came, you know, got off of all those medicines. And day 3 and 4, I was doing fine, a lot better. Still having, like, the easy agitation and stuff like that because I was also trying to quit smoking cigarettes. And those text messages were turned in, just certain screenshots of them, not the whole conversation originally with the first report of the case. And so he changed his tune pretty quickly after he saw how far I'd gotten myself while being on the street and the job I was working and all the participation and what I was able to help this family pull off that wasn't located in Lake Tahoe anymore. They all had to fly in and we had to have a celebration of life. All these people all over the country, and line them all up at one time in one location and do it for a reasonable price and then be able to have the use of the hotel and facility kind of as if it's their own space for the healing and the celebration and all that.
Yeah.
And I helped them schedule all that through my job at the radio station and get 50% off every room. I got, I think we had 8 rooms held or something like that. I got like put away, like their biggest, sleep the most, you know, amount of beds, hotels that he saw how I had pulled all that off.
Yeah.
And so, and that, you know, obviously I was doing well, and then people were in his ear upset. They were upset with him. They already knew what his involvement was. You know, like I said, my biological messaged every person on my Facebook. So then they were getting in contact with me. What's going on? What's the deal? What's she trying to do now? What's she trying to pull this time? So, you know, a lot of them knew, and they all knew the truth, and so they were angry with him and bitter, and a lot of them were in his ear, like, even if she were using, which we all know she wasn't, and the tests prove it, but that's your job as a friend to turn your back on someone that needs the help?
You know, that's something that blew my mind is when I was accused of being on drugs, and everybody turned their back on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, let's just for 1 minute pretend that I was.
You're just going to disappear and leave me alone to kill myself.
Why is everybody treating me like this? And everybody, see, I don't know if you have any religious beliefs, but we are Christian, and that's what everybody is supposed to be and claiming to be. And I'm like, tell me where in the Bible it says that when your brother or sister is down, you do this.
Turn your back on them. Mm-hmm. I'm very spiritual, and I know there is a God. Like I'm non-denominational, but absolutely God, you know, and I'm a child of God.
What only because we're running out of time, and I know that there's a lot more to your story. So
oh yeah.
Let's keep going.
Okay, so they behind my back do a jurisdiction hearing on Tuesday because remember it's Martin Luther King weekend. I get a message from my aunt that I have rebuilt a relationship with now, and she yells at me and screams at me, "Why weren't you at court for your kids? Why aren't you fighting for your kids? This is going on so that you can get the help you need," and blah, 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 blah. You know, this is only to help you and your kids to get to the help you need. Nah. What court hearing? What are you talking about? So she goes, "Well, you better show up to Wednesdays or Thursdays, whichever it was." And I'm like, oh my God. So I called the following morning because I get this message way late in the afternoon when nobody's open anymore. And sure stuff enough, I lost physical custody of the kids. The state had taken jurisdiction. They were physically placed into my incubator's home, and they were doing a full-blown investigation and opening a full-blown case on me, and that I had a court hearing on that Thursday. I found that out on Wednesday. So I get to court on Thursday, and it's a crap show. All these lawyers are like bouncing around from chair to chair based off their schedule and their vacations that are scheduled to come up, and all this craziness because it's after the new year, and all these attorneys have all this stuff that they have scheduled. And so my first attorney assigned to me no longer was my attorney, and I ended up with the one I had, who happened to have a conflict of interest because she's also the ADA of the city. So, like, how can you be that and my court-appointed attorney and not be biased with courts? Like, that makes no sense. But anyway, so she was assigned to me, spent all of 10 minutes with me in the conference room asking me about the stuff, went over my drug test, went over all that. And she goes, "So why all of this medicine bottles?" I said, "Look at the dates. I had a family member that helped me get all healthy with all the surgeries I've had, and had explained, keep a bottle of different medicines that they had tried and write a note on that didn't work, why, this, that, or the other. You know, instead of writing a list, we didn't think about writing a list like that. You know, it was just keep the bottle so we had all the information on it. Well, so I had a Ziploc bag of bottles from all the surgeries that in the 3 years, like they were in the span of actually 4.5 years. They were presented to the courts as if they were all within that new year and the fall before that, and that I was consuming that much medicine from all over the country, that I was doctor shopping is what I was also accused of, which was obviously figured out to be false very quickly. So all these false accusations, my attorney did nothing but sit there and let them run their mouth, didn't stand up for me whatsoever.
And this was you said it was a court-appointed attorney?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
I had her up until for a year and some change. She even tried to tell me I couldn't fire her, and I said, "Watch this." When I was in the hospital in PPE, and the hospital did a bunch of extra work to get it to where I could have a visit with the kids and then not know that I was that sick, hide my IVs, make me look good, make me look somewhat normal. CPS refused.
Now, did your kids ever have to go into foster care?
Yes, ma'am. They were refused. They were removed for a year, home for a month and a half.
And why did they get removed from her?
She was being inappropriate with them and discussing the case and talking to them about all of it, the legal case and all this stuff.
That's crazy.
So they removed the kids.
My mother was doing the same thing, and they threatened that they were going to remove my kids, but they never did.
Be grateful that they didn't, though, because my children, that was where the night I would have rather them stay there because I knew what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
I knew what kind of abuse. I knew what, because I had just gone through that counseling and therapy myself as an adult to fix what was broken. And they put them in a home of people that used false papers, that were criminals.
Who did what? Wait, who what?
They were put in the home of a criminal.
They were placed.
They took them from her right after a visit. Me and the girls and I were on a visit, and I thought something was kind of weird because they had us in this vault. It's called the vault because it's an old bank. Hey, y'all, I'm on the phone with a lawyer, like a video with a lawyer. So could you try to be like somewhat quiet if you don't mind? We're almost done, literally. We're super close. I apologize. So they took them from her and they didn't tell me. We were in a visit and I promised my daughters they were going home to their beds, safely to their beds. Apparently they had overheard stuff as well. And that's why they were acting the way they were. I didn't understand. No one had told me they were being removed. I called a social worker after yet again, this aunt that cared about wanting me to get the help I needed. Clearly, it's why she's filling me with information of you're supposed to do this. Why did you do this? Why is this going on? I cannot believe you. You are the most selfish individual, having them removed from, sorry, again. And I had no idea. I go, what are you talking about? I get on the phone right away and call the emergency line. And I say, you get me on the phone with a social worker and you do it right now. I just left your facility and I find out my children are being moved in the middle of the night. I promised them that they were going home to their bed, what they knew as home. And y'all sat there and listened to me do it and allowed me to do it. And didn't tell me you were removing my children and putting them in foster system. Oops, sorry. I thought one of the case aides had already told you and had the discussion with you. I said, you're saying oops like you accidentally forgot to give me my cell phone.
Yeah.
Oops, like you accidentally dropped one of my baby calves during birthing or something, like for a farm. Oops, these are my children. What do you mean, oops? I went ape on him. Demanded a personal meeting the following morning, which I got because I was literally right across the street from the CPS building for a while, is where I was staying. And
yeah, tell me they
were put in the home of the criminals that had fake paperwork. They both had been arrested before, the two adults.
What?
They had an 8-year-old son. They had been leaving my children in a hotel room during the weekend that they went to the state fair for their son's birthday, alone, walked in there while they took their son to enjoy the fair. Then the father was taking my daughter out to a tent in the middle of the night with his 8-year-old to perform inappropriate acts. Up until this point, neither of my children had been touched inappropriately or been through that kind of hell. I kept asking, who goes in this home? I want to know what kind of home my children are in. I want to talk to the social worker that steps in that house every week to check on them. I want to report, and I want to report now. And I'm not leaving down here because I was 2.5 hours away. They took them 2.5 hours away. So I spent 4.5 hours to 5 hours in a car to go spend 2 hours with my children twice a week. One way. Like it's 2.5 hours one way. So I see this tattoo on this woman's ankle and know it's a jail tat. I said, excuse me, that is who picking her up? Them up? Oh, that's the foster parent. That's the foster mother. I said, what? She's been to jail. How do you know? No, we do thorough backgrounds. I said, ma'am, that is a jail tattoo around her ankle, and don't tell me different. And it says her husband's name. Well, no, her husband's name isn't Joe. It's blah, blah, blah. I said, well, someone's got something messed up here. So within 24 hours, my children had been removed in the middle of the night because the teacher had reported this inappropriate abuse. My daughter had, showed the signs of this abuse and was concerned as well. And so since the teacher raised concerns, and I did at the same time, they then investigated and found that they falsified their identity. They had a baby too. They had a baby with they were fostering a baby, an infant with my daughters as well. So the three of them actually ended up going to the same next foster home. So, and then they endured abuse there by the two teenage girls that have been in the system for so long. And I had seen these girls for about 8 months coming in and out of the office that we would go meet at. I was able to go to, parks, this, that, and the other with a case aide supervising. All of them could not believe I even had a CPS case. My kids weren't with me. They just couldn't wrap their head around it. So I had leniency, in that perspective of spending time with my daughters and having conversations with them where they felt free to talk. So I found out about tent time and all that stuff. And it was horrific. When they removed them, they utilized me to stabilize my children because they were uncompliant. They couldn't get them to do anything or listen or stop crying and freaking out, one of them. So they asked me to talk to them and give them false reassurance that everything was okay. Utilize my bond with my children to falsely give them false security that I don't know if everything's gonna be okay. I don't know where they're at. So I got to talk to them every day, sometimes twice a day for about a week. I wasn't going to turn that down, you know,
Right.
but that's the
So
day that I found out they were being sexually assaulted is the day I started throwing up and didn't stop for like 8 months.
I can't believe that.
They had to put an IV medication in my body to get my muscle to start contracting again to my stomach. What had happened is the muscle just quit. Just went like comatose. Right when I found that out, I started throwing up on the phone, talking to the CPS, and then they connected me to my children within minutes after telling me about everything. So I had to suck it up buttercup, and I'd pretend like everything was all peachy keen, and I was going to see them soon, and everything was going to be fine, and mommy's doing what she's supposed to be doing, so everything should come to an end soon, and blah, 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 to make CPS's job easier. If you're needing me to take care of my children while they're in your jurisdiction, in your care, why the hell do you have me in the first place? And why did they have them in the first place if they were needing me to stabilize my children? It was insane. So then they went to another home. They were being locked out outside all day long in the summer.
Why?
And dirt, because the woman had too many. She was the only one that would take siblings and not split them up, and became too much for her. Because I mean, that woman meant well. She really did. It's just when you have this multi-billion-dollar operation moving the way they do, they end up with an overload of children and no homes.
Yeah.
And when there's no need for it, because a lot of these children could have stayed with their parent and just had the regular checkups.
Right.
And resources offered to the parent to fix whatever brought them there in the first place and keep going about their business. That used to exist, but that cost too much money out of their multi-billion-dollar operation. I want to know and see, and we have every legal right to, I'm trying to find out where we get this, where they're spending their federal funding and on what. Because they're not spending it on these children.
No, they're not.
I don't know if you know, I'm pretty sure you do, but I'm sure a lot of people don't know that every CPS agency gets federal funding every quarter per child they have in their jurisdiction. The more children, the more money.
Repeat that.
So the CPS agency, whether it's called DHS, whatever this protective agency, gets federal funding per social security number that they have in their jurisdiction. So your kid can still be with you, but then be coming in and out of your home to keep check on you, and they're collecting on your child's social security number. $250,000. Do the math.
Holy cow.
$1 million per child. They got $12.5 million off my children. They got paid $12.5 million to put my children in the hands of pedophiles. Talk about reverse prostitution. Yes, ma'am. I've been like digging and it's disgusting. And it's like, if you have that much money, there should be no reason why we aren't helping these children break not be a statistic. There should be no reason why these children are going through what they're going through, and these parents aren't getting the services that they deserve.
Well, that right there, that you just said it again and again. Why aren't these parents being helped if that's...
Because that's money out of their pocket. There goes their Beamer. There goes their Mercedes. I have photos of all of the higher ups that worked on my case and in our county and in our city. And they all lived in homes outside the means of a quote unquote salary of a social worker or someone that works with an agency such as so.
Yeah.
They're always doing fundraising, help foster care system, this, that, and the other. We need funding. For what? What have you done with the billions of dollars you get a year? Where is it going? Because it's not going to these children, and it's not going to these foster parents. And it sure as heck isn't helping rehabilitate any of the biological parents.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was dumbfounded. So that's what I filed my financial lawsuit was originally for. That's what I was going to be asking for, was 12.5 million, just so that I could get that number to stick to people and get in. It's the attention of our society that I was trying to reach. That's why this is like a godsend that all this happened with the time that everybody was paying attention like they are right now, because things gotta change for these kids, man. Like that's an insane amount of money to be taken. It's our taxes. It's our hard-earned money from the federal government being given to these individuals to hurt our children,
Yes.
to kidnap our children from us. It's an incentive. They don't give them any incentive to successfully return children and parents and have a success story. There is no incentive for that. So why on God's green earth would they really work their butt off or even put in half the effort they have to offer to reunify or, you know, successfully rehabilitate a family? They have no reason to. They need them to be reoccurring and revolving doors. They need certain cases to be reoccurring to keep their funding at a steady level. So, and certain children are returned home because they know they're gonna be back, and they get to start a whole nother set of funding. Starts all over again. The funding does. If the child's case gets closed, and then when it's reopened again,
Yeah.
whole new set of funding. So my children, that's when the teddy bear, the best friends, and I met up, talked, planned, set all issues aside amongst the two of us. I still didn't trust him per se, which is why I did a written contract. However, trust him or not regarding stabbing me in the back, I trusted him with my children's well-being. And I would 10 times over again. I mean, he literally did everything he could, and we got them out of harm's way. I was able to breathe for a
Is
second.
that where they are right now with him?
No, they're with her. They've been adopted to her. This month, at the end of the month, is my 3-year statute of limitations. It's 2 years when it's a non-biological family that adopts, and 3 years to challenge. I have been in court so many times since the adoption, and they kept asking for continuance. And I finally get into court with proof of what is going on in her home. And January, I had filed all of this a year prior, and they kept requesting a continuance until I got it removed from the lake up in Lake Tahoe and sent off the hill to a courthouse, you know, several hours away, but still in the same county. And I finally get to go before a judge, and I get told my statute of limitations for that issue and for that evidence has ran out. It didn't when I first filed. Y'all drug it out. The county drug it out purposely, asking for a continuance, pushing for a continuance over and over again until it got to that point.
That's fair. I don't get how
it's not fair. It's illegal. It's wrong. This is the same judge that said she was concerned, deeply concerned, because I provided photos, the audio recordings. My daughter, you hear her state that her Nana squeezed her by the throat we have a picture to go to it, of a handprint of a bruise across her throat, so deep that there's an imprint of a ring. And she talks about how her Nana squeezed so hard, and she tried to be brave and strong, but she couldn't help but the tears dripped down her face when she squeezed so hard to the bone. Is what I hear my daughter say in these recordings. Yeah. Someone steps in and sends CPS a picture, just a picture. And someone steps in and because they see her and see her with this bruise, takes a picture of the bruise. I taught my daughter to ask when she felt safe in this situation, the one that begged and cried not to go into her home. I taught her to ask for them, the adult, to pull out their phone and record, because at that point, that adult has every legal right to pull the phone out and record, especially one that has rights to the child. So this one had both. And she asked him to record. You hear her asking, are we still recording, multiple times throughout the thing. It's sad I had to teach her this during their time in foster care or in the CPS, because I knew they were getting ready to separate us, and it was about to be the fight of my life. And I was going to be either dead, or I was going to end up having my arms back around those babies and smell on the top of their head like I did when they were first born. Those are the only two options, and I'm not stopping. There's other ways. I can be their guardian. I have proof of abuse. I have proof that the home they are in is not okay. They're supposed to be in counseling. They're not.
What is their response when you show them this proof of abuse?
Deeply concerned, but after everything the children have been through, which I agree with this portion, I have a really hard time even considering pulling them and putting them back into the foster care system. My attorney wasn't, you know, I bless her heart, she worked her butt off as much as she could, but they're stretched thin. Look at all these stories out there that are popping up right now. And it's only the ones that have even know this is going on to share. But everybody's stretched thin. She didn't say the right thing. I could have stepped up and honestly probably got a possibility of guardianship of my kids because I knew the laws. I knew what to ask for. And she was so tired from traveling. I don't know what it was. She didn't ask for any of it. She should have stood up and said, Your Honor, my client is their next of kin on paper. No, yes, the statute of limitations of her rights to be reinstated as their mother on paper. Yes, that has passed. However, that has not stopped my client from staying and being a mom and having motherly instincts to want to protect her children. She's their next of kin as sister. She is applying for guardianship if you will take that in consideration. California has a right to change state. Every 2 years, I have the right to challenge all of this. I won't get anywhere unless I get a backing and a support system like I've been building. So they're with her. And the judge left it at that. I was past the statute of limitations. And yeah, it's just, she was deeply concerned, very concerned, but didn't know which way to turn and felt like, you know, if she didn't want to deal with the bureaucratic effery. I don't know how to find another word to replace that bad word with, but she didn't want to deal with it. She didn't want to deal, the judge had just gotten her position where she was at. She used to be in family services and department altogether, worked there for years. She said she was deeply, deeply concerned, but wasn't comfortable making the decision at that time to make any changes or moves.
You know, when
okay, well, send someone in. Start, no one's touching base with them. No one. My daughter sent a card to my father. I'm going to send you a picture of it. I have a picture of it. The oldest.
Yeah.
She couldn't even finish writing a simple thank you for sending me money for my birthday. Going on 13. She'll be 13 in April. And she can't even spell the simple words like that. You see it in her penmanship where the pen stops. Like she's hesitating and getting the help on how to spell it. And no one's finding this concerning. She's not getting any help. She's not getting counseling. She doesn't need counseling. That's what her Nana says. She doesn't need counseling. She graduated her counseling program. But yet she's going to be 20 when she graduates high school, if she even sticks with it at this rate. So I have all this therapy that I've set up for them that I've done research for, unorthodox, therapy, equestrian therapy, all kinds of different counseling and therapy that if I were to get guardianship of my children, no phones, no nothing, off the grid completely for a couple months. Therapy. Unorthodox, not your common sit in an office with a therapist, counseling. They need off, disconnected from everything to go heal, go process, to cope, understand, learn what they just went through with the parts that they don't understand. And,
right.
Have things explained to them all the way through from beginning to end. They need to be able to build trust with someone. Because the one person that's promised them the world is hurting them every day. Stockholm Syndrome 101. And, they're not going to trust anyone except for that I'm going to deal with what you did in a way. My youngest is going to trust me. She'll be like, I knew it, because she got in trouble just recently. Because my biological incubator will reach out and be so verbally accosting to my father and my stepmom, because they were getting to see the kids up until this last year. When my stepmom did this, she smelt my daughter's head when she said goodbye to her last year when they were out in Oregon for my brother's graduation as a doctor.
What did you say she did to her head?
Smelled her head, top of her head, like I do. I smell my kids' top of their head. When they're first born, you hold them and you put your nose to the top of their head, and that scent is stuck with you for the rest of their life and your life. It's their smell. Their one unique smell of their skin. and the top of their scalp is always there. It never changes. Like for me, you know, and my daughter's always growing up, why do you do that, mommy? I was like, cause I did that the first day you were born. Now my youngest, I didn't, because that's a whole nother freaking can of worms. I was disconnected. I was sick. I had cancer. She was going to be adopted. I did not bond with her while she was in my belly, and I did not hold her first 24 hours alive. But yet now she's the one that I feel constantly. Like I can feel this tug. She's my spitting image of a twin. She's the one that is trying to speak up and get help and be brave, but keeps getting shut down. She's one that's enduring most of the abuse as well. So it's a mess, and we just only covered 1/4 of it, girl.
Why don't we schedule to do a part 2?
Okay.
Let's keep in touch because I want to.
Most definitely. I have some stuff I wanted
Yeah.
to send to you and show you. Like, I honestly, I already feel your emotion through, like, I can see your emotion through it all and everything. But as soon as you hear these recordings, which since I know legally I can, I'm allowed to share this with you. I've checked my, beforehand. I will send you the photo that matches and like let you, and then I'll send you a photo of the girls and the name, which one's which, the one talking.
I wanted to show you really fast 2 things. And when I told them I had proof of the abuse like you do, they said 2 things to me. Number 1, everybody refused to open it because then they said they didn't want to have to do paperwork on it. And number 2, and I am glad.
I saw that video you have.
Yeah, the video.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so I won't play you that. But then I have, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it in time or not. The other thing that they responded with was, well, do you want them to be abused? At least you know the abuse that's happening, because otherwise they'll be abused in foster home. And after hearing your story, I'm glad I decided not to have them removed.
Leave them.
Yeah, my parents versus in foster care, because I feel like I can at least help them more with I'm not even going to bother looking.
The healing.
Mm-hmm.
The healing process, yeah.
My daughter had fingerprint bruise marks on her arm, like this.
Yeah. And
So,
you can see straight up that it's like a hand squeezing them way too tight or whatnot. Yeah. I mean, my daughter, she discusses some gnarly stuff, stuff that I'm not going to go full detail publicly just for her privacy and well-being. But with you, I will share it. You will be flabbergasted. It's hard as a mom to stomach it, to be honest.
No.
The drive, the distance that their biological grandmother has put between the 2 girls to the point where one turned and the other one is insane.
My kids,
it's insane. They're
still
Irish
struggle
twins.
with resentment and hate toward each other because of the same thing. Courtney, I wish I could just hug you. Do you get to see your kids?
Thank you. No, I have not seen. I have seen them from afar a lot in this past 3 years. But the last time I saw my children and hugged and kissed them was September 26th, 2016. I got a warning from this case aide because she was quitting. She was leaving her job, and my case played a big part in a lot of people leaving their positions and finding it a whole nother line of profession. But she pulled me aside and she was like, Court, I need you to keep it together, and I know you can't, but this is your final goodbye. You need to say goodbye to the kids, and you gotta keep it together. They can't remember their last time seeing you for a while being a mess. They need to see their bright, vibrant, spirited mommy that they know you are and that we all know you are, and that be the last thing that they saw from you and this beautiful visit you just had with them. And that's how I was told it was my last visit before my trial. My daughter knew somehow. I was begging for my phone number, my oldest. And that was rare, and she's begging, Mommy, why don't you call us anymore? I said, it's not Mommy that makes the phone calls. You guys need to ask them. I've never been the one that dialed your number. They do it. So I don't know, honey. And begged me for my phone number. And I couldn't obviously give it to her. And so I got in the car after that case aide and had that conversation with me. And I did it. I mean, I had tears on one side blowing down. And I was, drying them. And I was talking to my girls and looking at them in the mirror. But it's the last time I've gotten to hug them. Talked to them. I talked to them one time in April of 2017. I was in town fighting, with my dad. No one knew that I'd even left town. I secretly left town. But I was back in town fighting for my daughters, and it was her birthday, my oldest. It's April 23rd of 2017. And I see my biological mother's car in the Kmart parking lot. And so I call a really close friend that is a mother that has been there by my side through a large portion of this. And she went through some CPS stuff during mine because I had to say something to her about her grandson needing help. And she told me, get your butt in there. And you tell that little girl happy birthday. There is no law against you going into Kmart and running into your child. It is a small town. You will regret it for the rest of your life if you don't. So I did. I went into Kmart and they noticed me actually before I saw Mommy. And their Nana had her back turned looking at clothing on a table. And so I told them my mommy's still fighting and I always will. And you best believe that. You'll be home with me one day and one day soon, hopefully. And I told her happy birthday. And I told them just believe because that was something between us. I said, do you believe in Mommy? Do you believe Mommy's a good mommy? On one of our visits during the summer of 2016. And they said, yes. You just need to get healthy. And so I said, if you just believe that, Mommy will do the hard work. You just stay believing and everything will be fine. So I just hope to God, that when they do finally see me, not been enough damage for them to subconsciously block all those things out that we had good times building.
Right.
Because my kids and I are bonded like you wouldn't believe. They refused a bonding study, said they didn't have enough funding. Tell you, once I found out how much money they were getting on my kids, I was flipped. They refused the bonding study. It's clear that you guys are more than bonded. In June of 2016, they said adoption wasn't an option. We were too bonded. It was going to be detrimental to all three of us. Irreversible damage. It was stated on record that there would be irreversible damage to the children and mother if adoption was put on the table. Next thing I know, the end of that year, not even the whole end of that year, my rights are gone. As soon as my ex-husband signed his rights over, it was whoop. So everybody out there, you must keep both parents' rights intact. You keep both parents' rights intact, it's a lot harder for them to take your kids.
Yes.
One parent, don't think that the sick parent needs to sign the rights away so then the not sick parent can get the kids. It won't work that way. Don't do it. Don't do it. I've seen that question asked out there. Don't do it. Do not sign your rights ever over willingly.
Right.
Any parent. Unless, obviously, special circumstances that wouldn't fall under these categories.
Well, Courtney, again, I'm so sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
It is creepy weird, our entire weird situation. And then, that email, the name, I was just like, whoa, this is mind-boggling. All the millions of people out there right now that have platforms similar-ish, nothing to this length and depth. It was just out of all of them, yours was the one that I just kept watching over and over again. And I decided I don't care if it's 4 a.m, I'm writing her. I need to write her sooner than later. And then here we are. So thank you. I look forward to.
Yeah. When you just message my assistant on here, the one you've been talking to.
Okay.
Because it's not me. And go ahead and ask her for my number and she'll give it to you.
Okay.
And let's keep in touch.
I would love that. I definitely would love that. I think we all need to be getting together more often. We need to start supporting each other even more than what we already are, for our children.
Yeah, when you come to California, hit me up.
Oh, I'll be there. Oh no, where'd you go?
I'm here.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I hear ya. Hold on, I gotta find you. Oh, there you are. Okay. I hit you on the mouse. I definitely will. I'll be coming. I'm participating in quite a few of these marches and everything, and organizing, statistics being put on posters, like making them worth something, educating those that aren't out there but are seeing the photos.
Right.
Getting, this education out there. People need to be educated more about this. That's the only way they're going to successfully protect their children.
Okay.
So that's why I love what you're doing. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
He told me 2.5 years ago he was starting something like this, and I didn't realize I was going to accidentally stumble on it. It's crazy. He did. He told my parents and I when we were in the conference room that he was working on something regarding television and videoing.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Here we are. All right.
All right. Thank you, love. It was actually quite therapeutic. I've been waiting for the freedom to be able to share this story.
I'm glad that we
I wrote a book, and I'm doing rewrite on it right now that I'm in a different place. Mr. Davis, one that got me started on it, and I'm real adamant about getting it, to a point of being finalized and published.
Well, I would love to read it.
So, well, I'll message your assistant, and then will we just do our rescheduling for part 2 together amongst our messaging together?
Yes, so keep in touch with her about that, but then get my number and keep in touch.
And send you that stuff. Okay, I will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Have a good night.
You too.